Hello everyone, welcome to NintenDormant, the podcast where we discuss Nintendo games that have been left on the shelf. I'm your host George Banks, and joining me today from Good Vibes Gaming for the third time, it's Daniel Alba. Daniel, hello.
Hello, you have not gotten tired of me yet, and I'm here for a third appearance. Thank you for having me again.
Thank you for being here. How do you feel about your third time? Are you getting bored? I hope not.
No, I've been here with lovely people and a lovely host, so why would I be bored of being on here?
That's very sweet to say. And speaking of lovely people, from Good Vibes Gaming for their third appearance, it's John Cartwright. John, hello.
Hello. I'm ready to move in with you. That's how many times we've done this. If I can just live on your shelf,
yeah.
I'll be so happy.
I mean, if you're just listening, behind me is a lot of games. Not as many games as John, I would venture. But would you bring your games too, or do you think we'd be satisfied with the collection that we've got here?
I guess we can merge them.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll just form one mega collection. I mean, I don't have a Virtual Boy in person, unlike you, which is kind of crucial for this episode.
It is crucial for this episode. And I'm happy for you to move in, but I think we should do a prenup specifying the games, though. Not because I don't trust you or love you, John. It's just I think that's important.
It sounds a bit like distrust, but I'll take it.
It's solid distrust. Thank you both. Thank you both for being here for the third time, and I believe possibly the third, it might be the fourth, but the third or fourth GVGvGVG episode.
I think so.
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah.
You've both been
the
part
last
of it.
one with Kirby and Kirby Dream Course with me and Brandon.
Yes.
And then another one with someone else.
Yeah,
Other combination.
Jon and Derek with the Ice Climbers.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, the GVGvGVG ones get very intense, and I just like saying it. I mean, it's ridiculous, but I just like saying it a lot. How have you both been? We've now people. I haven't said this before, but we do record this podcast in batches, and then we release them throughout the month. So we've just had the Game Awards. It's be coming up probably in February, so that gives you an idea about the backlog. But we just had the Game Awards. What did you guys think?
It was good for the most part. Always has the same pacing issues, but the first 30 minutes were really solid. That they had a new Fumito Ueda game like Shadow of the Colossus and Ico. There was Witcher 4 and just a lot of really high caliber stuff.
Yeah, and Daniel, you were suited and booted for the event. You were looking very
We were all
swish.
suited. Yeah, I had everyone suit up. John, for some reason, was up at who knows what hour in the morning watching this with us, watching ads and awards.
I wasn't going to, but then I had a
too
feeling that
exciting.
it'd be good.
Yeah, it ended up being a full crew thing. Brandon wasn't there in person, but his voice was with us as well, and we had all six of us just reacting to the Game Awards, and it was a fun time. It was despite the lulls that it had, there were still some great announcements, some surprises, and we always have a good time. At least it's more bearable when you have good friends to enjoy it with.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't think I'm going to say GVGvGVG for 6 GVGs because that's too much. My pick of the exciting things, I really like the look of the absolutely bonkers Pac-Man.
Shadow Labyrinth.
Pac-Man Metroidvania, right? I mean, that's what it is.
Yeah, it's nuts.
There are some people who claim that they're not impressed, and I think they're liars.
on.
This is the most
Yeah,
amazing
you
thing.
can't not be impressed by that.
That is
Watching that trailer was so funny because we thought it was just this new IP, and then all of a sudden, it just sort of clicks. Is that orb following the woman? Is that Pac-Man? And then you see a maze in the background.
Bandai Namco, why is Pac-Man doing that? You're just you're the area turns into a maze, and you're just eating around like it's Pac-Man. It's ridiculous.
It's incredible.
And I love it.
The thing I really like is that it feels like it gives this podcast credibility because it seems like an absolute nonsense that a fan would make up that has just come into existence. So, hey, if that can happen, surely things that we've pitched on this podcast can happen, right?
Yeah, everything
yeah.
I think will happen.
Absolutely. Ice climbers are
Absolutely.
going to get some knives to stab people with, John. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
Is that what
this
happened
happen.
in that discussion?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You'll hear John's pitch. Hold on tight. It's a bit mad. The other big one for me was Okami. So that was on the NintenDormant list, not tied to Nintendo, but there was a Nintendo. There was a sequel, which was obviously tied to the DS, exclusive to the DS. So, I mean, I'm anticipating that's going to happen in this podcast, that games will come up and get announced, so they'll get taken off the list for us to discuss. But what are your thoughts about that, Daniel? Did you play the original?
Oh, yeah. I love the original Okami. I played it on the Wii, where I could actually use the paintbrush, and I also played it on my PS3. The HD version. I haven't really played it since then. I know I should try the Switch version, and it's also I think at this moment it's on sale. Probably I don't know if it is at the point when this releases, but it's probably very cheap anyways. If anyone hasn't played Okami and you enjoy like a Zelda-ish experience, you should definitely give this a try. It's a classic game.
That's great. How about you, John?
Yeah, I love Okami too. The Switch version's very cool because it's one of the few games that really uses HD rumble, so you can feel like little steps as the wolf moves.
I've not played it on
It's
Switch.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, there's tiny little flourishes like that make it probably the best version so far, to be honest. And Okami Den on DS, it's good. It doesn't get talked about much, but it is a nice side story.
Sort of largely forgotten, isn't it? Really, I mean, I don't think I played it, but I never owned it.
Yeah, it's a nice one. It's one of the most beautiful 3D DS games, and it just plays very well. Not quite the caliber of Okami, but still just very, very nice.
Have you got a mini pitch for what you'd like to see when it comes back?
For Okami 2, I think you should give the wolf a knife.
Classic Cartwright. How about you, Daniel?
Oh man, you're getting into like, just pretty much make it into Koromaru from Persona 3. You gave the dog a knife, and there you go.
That's both of our pitch. Give
the dog a knife. Well, I would play that game, and we're going to play another game right now. So yes, it's time for the NintenDormant Quickfire quiz. 2 rounds. First round is fastest finger first, followed by play or pass for double points. You can play along at home and let us know how you did. And as always, we'll let our guests pick what their buzzers are. So, Daniel, what would you like for your buzzer this week? I think you've stuck with the same buzzer for 2 shows in a row, so you can change it if you want to.
Did I change it? Did I stick with the same one?
I feel like you did the Mario World cape.
Oh, when you get a cape?
Oh, no,
and
yeah.
It's just like, you know what? I have some. I was looking through some sound files earlier because I'm doing a video,
right?
And I came across a bunch of Smash 64 sound bites. I'm gonna send you one of those. I think it's like when you select on the menu, it goes like bloop, just a really simple little like.
Just a
bleep.
tiny non-buzzer.
I'll send it to you. The audience will know when they hear it, and you will too.
I know exactly what it is. Yeah, the little disc goes on and goes beep. Yep, perfect.
Yeah.
All right, I can do that. John, what would you like?
Can I have the tweeting noise of a yellow-breasted warbler? I don't know what that sounds like.
Have you been watching?
I imagine.
Have you been watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine by any chance?
Yes,
nailed it.
Watch it go like or something.
No, there's one episode, and this is super tangent for Nintendo fans.
Raymond, a yellow-breasted warbler.
Yes, where the main character is pretending to be another character, and he pretends to be him by learning the sentence, "Look, Raymond, a yellow-breasted warbler." Absolutely fantastic. Good pick, John.
Puts mine to shame.
Oh,
my
no.
sound
No.
effects.
I mean, I don't know how loud a yellow-breasted warbler sounds. It could be. It might just be the
It
tiniest
might deafen
sound in the
everybody,
world.
for all we know.
Yeah.
For all we know, the Smash 64 little blip is a voice sample of a yellow-breasted warbler, in which case this is going to be very confusing, but I will do my best to differentiate. Are we both ready?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
All
This
good.
is an easy one to start with, so fastest fingers first. How many Jacks are there in Jack Bros? John.
There are 3 Jacks.
There are 3 Jacks. Of course, don't say anything more, because there's a question about those 3 Jacks coming up. But John takes the first point. All right, question 2. In Jack Bros, when you take damage, what is depleted? It's John again.
Time?
Time is correct. Yes. Now, we will get more into this, obviously, in the episode, but what a good mechanic.
Yeah, it's very cool.
It's very cool.
Yeah, it makes replaying levels very intense because you got to optimize your playthrough to the best extent.
Right, you've got to clear the level in the time, and it ratchets up that tension of going, particularly towards the end when you go, I can't get hit. And not in a, I'll find some health kind of way, just like I really can't. And
it'd be devastating.
Oh, yeah, the strategy. Very good, very good. Right, question 3. So, the Megami Tensei series features Jack the Ripper as a demon, but what is his name in the North American release of Jack Bros? Daniel.
You're so quick.
That's Jack Skeleton.
It's Jack Skeleton. That was really quick.
You didn't even finish your
I know.
sentence. Daniel was just like, I was born for this question.
Just clearly a big. Is that your main man when you're playing the game, Jack Skeleton?
Oh, I'm a Jack Frost boy.
Oh.
I'm a classic.
Classic Jack Frost on that classic series. All right. Question 4. Similarly, Jack-o'-lantern has a different name in North America. What is it? It's Daniel again. Halfway through the question again.
He knows all the English
Jack-o'-lantern is a
names.
different name. Because
It
I
is.
know there are some instances where he's also called Pyro Jack
He's
as
called
well.
Pyro Jack. Very. To be fair to you, John, I mean, Daniel is North American. I mean, you might have the advantage there.
Right. Whereas I don't even speak English.
Us lowly
It's-
Europeans get nothing.
It's
Yeah.
interesting. It's interesting because the name was Pyro Jack for a little while for Atlus games here, but then with recent games like Persona 5 and whatnot, it's gone back to Jack-o'-lantern.
Oh, I hadn't noticed that. Yeah. It's weird as well that they pop up because I feel like they're in 3 and 5. I can't remember them being in 4, and I don't think all of them are there. It's just 2 of them from what I remember.
Yeah, they haven't really had Jack Skeleton in a long time.
To be fair, I mean,
So-
he's a little skeleton with a switchblade. It's not quite as not quite as fancy as the other two.
That's like one of our pitches.
well,
Let's
exactly.
Just give him a knife. Just give Jack
Oh.
a knife.
They've got Cartwright on board. He's there. All right, we're tied 2 for 2 then. So, fastest finger first, final question. What do you collect during the playthrough to get a special attack?
Oh, he's so quick.
So quick. Go on, Daniel.
Oh, the special attack. I thought you were going to say it to progress.
He's buying time now, John. Might
Oh
put down a little
gosh,
ticker.
what did he collect? I forgot which one. I'm sorry.
I'm
no.
gonna pass over to John.
Go ahead.
It's no good to pass it to me because
Oh.
it's completely slipped my mind.
You get,
What do you collect? You collect
I guess, any guesses?
fairies.
Not fairies. Daniel, any guesses?
You collect a orb. No, this is on non-specific orb.
There are orbs, which are like a little shield thing, but no, you get stars, special attack stars.
Oh, there's
Oh,
stars.
that's what I
okay.
said. The microphone just didn't come out quite right.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Exactly.
That puts me in a tricky predicament because for the first time ever, we've finished round 1 with the same amount of points.
Should we just pitch at the same time? Like, just ignore each other and just keep talking?
No, I'm gonna create a rule right now, which is it then becomes alphabetical if it's tied. I mean, it would be hilarious to just shout over each other, but it might be. I mean, we can try it. No, do you know what? No, John, let's do buzzers.
It sounds like an awful
No,
idea.
let's do
This
buzzers.
is terrible.
I'm doing buzzers. Fingers on those buzzers
Okay,
for round
buzzers.
2. Double points. And then if you don't get it, the other person can get it for a point. This is totally messing with the system. I don't care. Right, question 1 for double points. How many areas are there to explore in Jack Bros? Oh, it's Daniel.
There are 6 areas to explore.
I didn't even give him the multiple choice, John. I really fear for you in this
know.
quiz. This is
Oh,
outrageous.
that's right.
You
would
said
be
how
multiple.
many, and he buzzed. It could have been anything. How many sexual partners has Jack Frost had? And you don't know what he was going to say.
47.
Oh, no.
He's a promiscuous boy. 6 areas, and if you ask me to name one, I don't think I could because they are not memorable.
They're all red.
They're all red, and as far as I remember, just all platforms. Right? Is there anything that distinguishes them? I mean, we'll get into it more, but
Not really.
Not too much, no. Just the bosses themselves, I think.
the bosses are good. Dan has got this logic seared into his brain. Right. Question. I've got to reset that buzzer. Question 2. In Jack Bros, you can play as Jack Frost, Jack Lantern, or Jack the Ripper. But who is the 4th playable character? Is it A, Pixie, B, Fairy, C, Sprite? It's John.
Pixie.
That's Pixie, John. Well done.
Yeah.
I should have known by just the names.
He's brought it back to 4-4. Yes, I don't think the Pixie has a name unless I'm remembering this horribly poorly.
just
I think
Pixie.
it's just Pixie.
It's always been just Pixie,
Just Pixie.
yeah.
I was going to say, well, I'm just doing my usual bang-up job of fact-checking for these quizzes, which is not good. Right, question 3. Now, this is when I started to run out of Jack Brothers questions. So, here we go. Very general now. So, incredibly, Jack Brothers is the first Megami Tensei game to be released in the West, but what year was it released? Was it 95, 96, or 97? John's buzzed in fast.
95.
95. That warbler is singing, John. Yes.
It
Heck
is.
yeah.
6 points to 4. This might end as well. We could just wrap up the quiz with a complete tie, which has never happened. So this could be a first. So, Daniel, you've got to fire that finger.
Okay, here we go.
Officially,
Oh, you go reset our buzzers first.
Yep, well done. Thank you. Absolute professional. How many times have I done this? 7, 8. Still not doing it right. How many units officially did the Virtual Boy sell? Is it A, 770,000, B, 870,000, or C, 970,000? Oh, Daniel's buzzed in. He's going for it.
770,000.
Daniel, he's nailed it. That's 2
I'm
points.
going for the lowest number because it did not sell a lot.
Buzz. Congratulations, Daniel.
I thought people might think it was just under 1 million, but no, it is 770,000.
We didn't even get it.
No.
Here. You are an anomaly for having it behind you right now.
Anybody just listening, I do have a little red Virtual Boy on the shelf behind me, and it is. I found it in a charity shop for like 70 quid when I was a teenager.
The chances of that are
so
like next to nothing.
That's crazy.
Somebody has to have imported it from another country and then decided, I'm not going to sell this. It's worth nothing. I'm going to donate it
give
to
it
a
to
charity.
charity. And I'm like, a charity shop in Watford as well. Like who in Watford had a Virtual Boy? It's insane. I don't know what to do about this because the winner of the quiz normally pitches their game first. So do I just make up a random tie-break question? It feels right.
I guess so, yeah. How many Virtual Boy facts do you know off the top of your head?
None. Okay.
What was the resolution of the Virtual Boy screen?
No, I got a good one. All right, hang on. This is going to be Virtual Boy themed because I have fully run out of Jack Brothers questions, and we're going to do what's that game show, Daniel? Where is it The Price is Right in the States?
That is a game show, but what are the rules?
I think he needs more context.
Oh yeah, sorry, I should have explained what my question was going to be. Where you say something and then you have to guess a number, and then the other person has to guess a number, and the one who gets the closest number, right? That's a thing.
I guess the way The Price is Right does it is that there's an item, and you want to guess the price of said item, and you can't go over. The person who gets closest without going over is the one that wins.
Okay, that is
round.
fully not what I thought, but that's fine. So
that's why the price is to be right.
Okay, well, it's kind of Price is Right. So, how many officially released games were there for the Virtual Boy? So, Daniel, you can go first. John, you can go second, and whoever gets closest takes the quiz.
The officially released games.
Are we counting all territories?
All territories. So if it came out in Japan
North
but not America, that still counts. It's an officially released game.
Okay.
Oh boy.
John looks like he's Googling, but I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt.
I am not. If I were Googling, you'd hear this. One sec, you'd hear this.
All right, fair enough.
Hold on.
Just mash the
Give me a second.
keyboard when you type.
I did. I was making sure that I wasn't on the recording bit and stopping the recording.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Total Virtual Boy games. I'm gonna go. There's not a lot. I'm gonna say 16.
All right, John, we've got 16. What do you think?
And just to clarify,
On your Google
if
list.
I go over the amount, but I'm still nearer, do I win?
Yeah,
Or
I don't care if
I
you go over it as long as you're closest.
Oh, okay. Either way.
Okay.
I'm not going to fully Prices Right it.
I feel like 16 is correct in America, but I think globally there are more than that. So I'm gonna just say 17.
So cheap.
Oh no! It's like bidding $1 in Prices Right.
Yeah, John, the absolute villain, takes the quiz because there were 22 releases. So John has poached it with 17. John, I'm going to give you a half-hearted round of applause for winning that quiz. It was
Thank you for that half.
Yeah.
What would you?
round of
I wonder
applause.
what you have chosen if you went first. What would your number have been?
I would say like 20. I'd say.
That's pretty
Oh,
close.
so I
So
know.
I would have lost. I was doomed
I know
either
it's at
way.
least. I know there's at least like 2 dozen.
I tell you what, have we got time to run through this mighty list of games? I think we do. You've got 3D Tetris. 3D Tetris, which is very good. John, have you played it?
Yeah, I played 3D Tetris and V Tetris, which
Thank
is
goodness.
they're both V good.
Very nice. 3D Tetris, Galactic Pinball, Golf. Oh gosh, sorry everybody. Innsmouth no Yakata, which is a first-person horror game apparently. Jack Bros, Mario Clash, good game. Mario's Tennis, Nestor's Funky Bowling, Panic Bomber, Red Alarm, a Gundam game, Gundam Dimension War, Space Invaders Virtual Collection, Space Squash, Telero Boxer, fantastic game. John, you're a Punch-Out fan, right? Have you played Telero Boxer?
Yes, I have. It's really. I love how it uses both D-pads.
I know,
too.
and it's so hard as well. We'll get
Yeah.
into this. V Tetris, Vertical Force, Virtual Bowling, Virtual Boy Wario Land. Great game. Should be released elsewhere. Virtual Fishing, Virtual Lab, Virtual League Baseball, and Classic Water World. that fantastic game.
Vertical Force rocks too. Like it's a standard vertical
It's a shmup,
shooter,
right?
apart
Yeah.
from you're working on multiple layers. Yeah. It's really good.
It is good.
And yeah, what Waterworld is it's like the only licensed Virtual Boy game, and it's like the worst of them all.
It holds the distinction. I think Vertical Force, I quite like it, but my only issue with it is that because of the red and black palette, occasionally it can be really hard to see incoming, to the point where
Sure.
when you're playing a shmup, right, it's got to feel fair. Like, you got to feel it was your fault that you died. Otherwise, it doesn't work. So that was the only thing that used to wind me up in Vertical Force. I'd be like, I didn't get shot, but obviously I did. Daniel, have you trawled through much of that catalogue or not really?
You know, the only reason I'm as knowledgeable of this catalog as I am now is because of Jon here, who was able to show me how to play them in a more convenient way. Because
yes.
as you might know, the 3DS famously does not have Virtual Boy games on it, but I was able to.
It's the biggest waste in the world.
It's outrageous. I tell you what, we'll jump over to our next section and we'll get into that a little more in just a sec. So yes, as you may have gathered, today we are talking about the Virtual Boy classic, Jack Bros. A quick history lesson for those who haven't played it, which is going to be most of you. Released in 1995 for the ill-fated Virtual Boy, Jack Bros has you take control of one of the 3 titular demon Jacks, attempting to return home from our world before the end of Halloween, when the gate seals shut. To return, they must navigate a shortcut of 6 dangerous areas, traversing multiple floors and a boss fight in each, all guided by a pixie and with various power-ups to boot. The areas must be completed within a strict time limit, with damage not decreasing health, but time instead. Each Jack controls differently and provides a different ending, with an unlockable 4th character available too. Locked to the Virtual Boy, a copy these days will set you back hundreds of pounds, and it's not playable anywhere else. So guys, yes, Jack Bros, locked to the Virtual Boy, is not published or made by Nintendo, but I feel like it's okay for NintenDormant because it is a Nintendo exclusive game. So, yes, Daniel, you were saying about how you ended up playing Jack Bros.
Yeah, it wasn't too long ago, actually, because very recently, Jon himself has shown people the ways of how to play pretty much the entire catalog. It's not even that large of a catalog. The whole catalog of Virtual Boy games on my 3DS. And it works so ridiculously well with that, too. One of my favorite features is being able to not have it be blood red in my eyes.
What? Yes, thank you for that, Jon. That was a wonderful... It was a video you put out, right?
It was, yeah. You can change the color to basically anything in the whole hue. And changing it into a bluish, like a light blue, was a nice color for it. Much less harsh on the eyes.
I feel like Jack Bros is nice in red, though, right? Because it's a horror game at its core.
Sure, but there's a really good 3D effect to Jack Bros, especially with all the layers that are below you. And that's obviously great on the Virtual Boy, which is surprisingly good at with that effect. But on 3DS, it's just so comfortable.
Oh, it's fantastic.
There's no headset on your face.
Yeah.
You can just sit back comfortably, especially on a new 3DS, and just get all the benefits of what Virtual Boy can give you while, looking like a normal person.
Whenever I talk to somebody about Jack Bros, which is often, it comes up all the time, but when I do talk to people about Jack Bros, I'm trying to explain the effect. I always liken it to if they've played A Link Between Worlds, right? There's a few dungeons where you play, and then you can see the floors underneath you, and they're, depending on how far you have the scroller put up, obviously on the 3DS, you can sort of see that drop distance of the floors. And that's basically what you have when you're traversing the areas in Jack Bros. You're walking around these platforms, you have to beat a certain number of enemies or find a key to unlock the door to drop down to the next platform, or while this time limit is ticking away. And it's nice to have that effect of having the platform beneath you, knowing that that's where you need to get to, right? While you're traversing, you're going, I've got to get there, I've got to get there. So it's a simple effect. It doesn't do a lot with the 3D, but that particularly, I think, is a really, it's quite striking, actually, when you play the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And on the on an actual Virtual Boy console, the controls use both D-pads, so one to move, one to shoot. And so on 3DS, you've got to, in the emulator, change up the face buttons and the D-pad. And it works well like that. But you can tell it was made to be held with an actual Virtual Boy controller. But you can make it work pretty well on 3DS.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's good. Did you play it through with all the different characters? Like, did you invest time in the game, or was it kind of one and done?
I mostly played as Jack Frost, who I apparently is the weakest one of them all.
Yes.
Yeah, pretty much. That's what I did as well. But as you were saying with the 3D effect, yeah, I really enjoy how, like, with these sort of games, especially with the 3DS, I've come to really appreciate the 3D effect that, sure, it, like, comes out of you a little bit, but the one where you're just, like, you're looking into a box and you can see all the depth inside.
So
Like, that's my
good.
favorite kind of 3D effect. When it's coming out at you, like the traditional 3D, I guess, it kind of takes me out of it because it clips on the sides, but it really looks like I'm just looking into just an infinite void, especially with Jack Brothers, because you can really see, as you mentioned, like the floors beyond.
Oh, it's fantastic.
You heard so many people when talking about the 3DS are always like, oh, we played with 3D on for a few weeks and then we turned it off. And I'm like, no, I didn't. I kept that thing rammed up the entire life cycle.
All the time. I literally remember. So one of the first games, I think, did Star Fox 64 release with it? I feel like it might have done, but
It didn't release with it. It was like a few months
it was
after.
early title. And I remember genuinely. So I'll try and describe this if you're just listening. But I had the 3DS in front of me with a 3D like jacked up. And I had an enemy behind me, and it shot its laser, and I genuinely went "Ugh," like that while I was playing, like just dodged my head to the side while I was playing the game because it was so
My
vivid.
immersion.
And I remember I had a chat years and years ago with a mate about the he came over, saw the Virtual Boy, and I was saying it's mad that they haven't made a collection of the games for the 3DS, and loads of people saying like, oh, maybe they can't do it because of X and Y and Z, but you have this package that that are fans just put together, and it works seamlessly. It's just. Basically, I think we're all in agreement that if you haven't done this and if you haven't tried it, not that we necessarily condone some of the methods that you have to go to, but try it, right? Because there are games on there worth playing.
They should have done it themselves, and it's ridiculous they didn't. They did like a 3D Classics range of NES games on 3DS, and there were like 6 of them. Yep. They could have done the same thing
with
with
the Virtual Boy.
Literally the ideal way to play some of these games, like Kid Icarus and Kirby's Adventure. Like that's the ideal way to play these games now, and they're just
they're the best versions.
Yep.
And much like the Virtual Console games, there's like no way to play them anymore. There's no preservation of those, unfortunately. So
no, it kills me. So let's talk a little bit more about the game. So yes, there are 3 characters available. There's Jack Frost. So you're both Jack Frost fans. Jack Frost has the most range, so he throws big old snowballs out. Then there's let's call him Jack-o'-lantern. He's Jack-o'-lantern. Jack-o'-lantern has a fireball, which is kind of a mid-damage one with a little bit less range. And then there's Jack the Ripper, who just goes stab, stab when he's in front of somebody and has basically no range. And their specials are, I think, off the top of my head, Jack Frost sort of freezes the enemies on screen, does a bit of damage. Jack-o'-lantern, maybe they stay still as well. Jack-o'-lantern does the same thing, where he causes sort of mid-damage, and Jack the Ripper kind of basically just kills everybody on screen with his. And then there's Pixie, who just shoots things too. So not a ton of range in how the characters work, but there is differences there. There's speed differences as well, that kind of thing. And I found, there's a really nice enemy variety. You've kind of got the little cat things that run at you. There's, knights with their big swords, and there's angels that kind of shoot things at you. There's a centipede with a skull. Do you remember that one? That's horrible.
yeah.
They run around on a set track. And it's like we were saying earlier, the thing that I really like about the game is that you have the sort of set area that you have to explore and find these keys to unlock. And you have to really, actually, it's quite a lot of strategy to be able to tackle the enemies without taking damage and running down that time to get to the end. Did you feel like it had a nice kind of arc through that, Daniel? Did you ever feel it was too punishing, or did you feel the game strikes a nice balance?
I think it was pretty breezy for the first areas. I was like, oh, okay, you just have to pretty much not get hits. Like, there's more incentive to not be hits than just having a typical health bar.
Yeah.
I didn't really realize, the first time I was doing it, I was like, what's going on here? Like, I didn't realize the timer was, like, you've either finished the whole floor or you restarted all over again. So in the later floors, that does become a bit punishing, and you have to kind of really strategize what you're doing, how you make a path to get all the keys to move on to the next floor, and make sure that you don't like waste as much time as possible. And also just fighting the boss themselves is kind of stressful later on, because you get hit and you're just losing like 10 seconds at a time. You're like, no, I need the time.
Yeah, it's grim. When you get down to the boss and you're up against time, it's that good stress, right? That good stress in gaming of knowing you can achieve it and having to plan and strategize and having that. Yeah, you have hearts on screen and stuff, but it's kind of an abstract thing. But like a ticking clock is such a pressurized thing, isn't it? That your brain just knows without even sort of thinking about it. I really do enjoy that.
It makes you play like Wellers too. Like, if it was a traditional health system, you could just like bump your way through the entire thing.
Yes.
But you've got to really optimize, and by the end, like you kind of feel good because you've learned everything so well.
Makes you feel smart.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. You're really just like optimizing everything from the get-go. You're just trying to make sure that you don't get hit. And there's like little things in there too, like there's little power-ups you can get as well, like to be invincible or to charge your super.
Yeah, there's like orbs, I think that like shield you, that kind of thing. I think from off the top of my head, it's just, potions, orbs, like shield orbs, stars. I think you can get like clocks or something that give you a bit more time, I think.
Right.
Yeah, and so it's like it's very arcadey in a way that it's like it's not obnoxious if I lose. Like it's a very quick run each time, so you kind of learn a little bit more as you go along. It's a very classic kind of game that way.
It's very different for Shin Megami Tensei.
Very.
Like usually they're very, more in depth, a lot more downtime between the gameplay, whereas this is just relentless gameplay the entire time.
Yes, and obviously like quite heavily associated with RPGs as well. Whereas this, I guess you'd describe it as it's just an action game, right?
Yeah, it's almost a shmup, I'd say. Like, it's like a dungeon crawling shmup.
Pretty much.
the only dungeon crawling shmup.
The only dungeon crawling shmup.
And it's the other thing about it as well is that I think it's a gorgeous game actually. I think in terms of the Virtual Boy didn't have a lot of time obviously to sort of dig the depths of what they could achieve visually with 22 releases, but this and Wario Land particularly are really pretty. And so each character has a different ending. I mean, we could chat about them. They're not. There's a princess and a gate, and they're kind of, they're not astounding endings. I didn't shed a tear at the end of the game, but the artwork, you get pictures and artwork, and they're sort of classic 90s anime feeling, but they and I think it is actually part of that red and black thing. They do really pop on the screen, well, and the 3D when you see them. Like they're quite memorable.
Yeah, speaking of the visuals, like along with this, the box art of these games.
I was so happy whenever you brought that up. Yeah,
I love that it's that era where the American box art, at least for this game, it looks like it's going to be some kind of 90s American horror movie with the monsters looking so demonic and just
like Halloween.
Yeah, like Halloween. And then you look at the Japanese box art, dang, Jack Frost is cute.
He's adorable, man. I drew the thumbnails for this channel, and I had so much fun drawing his little round chubby face. He's just gorgeous.
It's very similar to what Dragon Quest did in the West, because you get rid of the Akira Toriyama art and you just draw a realistic dragon.
It's absolutely baffling, isn't it? And I it's a different time for all of us. We're all very young, or I mean, you guys possibly didn't exist at that time. I don't know, but it's that era when that stuff didn't necessarily carry over, and people felt like people just making decisions because they felt like it would do the game justice. And I can't tell you how much I think the American box art is such a disservice to this game. It's just, I mean, it's hilarious now, but I think if you were Atlus back then, you'd probably be quite aggrieved by that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad we're at a spot where we don't have to worry about our aesthetics being like an audience just not liking it, for example, because that was rampant in this era. There were so many different like major box design differences between regions. But I mean, I'm a big fan of Shin Megami Tensei in general, so I vastly prefer the Japanese.
It's so funny though that the sprites weren't adjusted. It's like you buy the game and you expect like the box art people, and it's just this happy little
little snowman.
Yeah.
Hello. It's
hee-ho.
The one thing as well, I think another brilliant aspect of the game are the bosses. So there's 6 bosses. But they're fantastic. The first one is kind of your typical like waving arm. I say waving arm, not a human's waving arm, because that was mad. But I'm talking a few circles with something on top shooting stuff at you. But then after that, you've got like this enormous skull thing, possibly with little spider legs. There's a vampire like who chucks loads of bats at you. I mean, if any of these sound vaguely Zelda-ish, they are vaguely Zelda-ish. There's basically a spider with eyes, Goma, a big old dragon, and then there's the last boss, which I think is Beelzebub. So it's a sort of a devil, then turns into this huge moth with this massive laser cannon. And they're good. You know, they again, it's that thing of they really sort of nail the strategy aspect with going bosses that are hard. And if you give yourself enough time, you can do them calmly. But if you're up against it, they are very stressful to take down. Any that stuck in your brain, Daniel, from the list? Any that you sort of remember struggling with, or just remember the design of and thought, yeah, that was fantastic?
I think it was the second boss with the skull that's shooting projectiles at you. That's when I learned. Oh, I got to be really careful with my time, because there are sometimes I approach that boss and I have like 30 seconds left, and I'm like, oh, this isn't gonna happen unless I rush.
How about you, John? I think probably the Goma one. Not necessarily because it's like incredibly difficult, but just it's imposing. 'Cause it's a big sprite with lots of things to move around, and when you're low on time already, it's just extra stress to deal with it.
Yeah.
But when I kind of had when I had enough time, it wasn't that tough really. But you get more stressed when you're low on time.
That's the thing. But that's the great thing about the game, is that it teaches you to be efficient, and then you're calm. That's just it's a really good game, and it's such a shame more people didn't play it. So we're going to go into what we always do, which is pitching our vision. Now, John, you won the quiz, so you are the president of Nintendo. But we are the board, and we demand that you bring back Jack Bros and you make it a success. So please tell me, how on earth are you going to do this?
Okay, so you've all demanded Jack Bros comes back. I'm questioning you all a little bit, but we're going to do it. So we're going to get Atlus back on board to bring back Jack Bros. They're working on it internally. We're getting the core Persona team to come back and work on Jack Bros.
Okay.
But we're not really going to use their talents and experience that they've acquired in the last few years. We're going back to basics with Jack Bros. So we're going to have those core dungeon crawling levels, which will play very similarly and loyally to the Virtual Boy original to appease all the fans who have been accumulated over these years.
Right?
All the fan. So we're talking very tightly designed areas, quite corridory. But this time we've upped the ante with the shmup mechanics. So the Jack Bros now have little mechs that they go around in, and these mechs are capable of spawning wings, and these wings will come into play a bit later on. But let's just focus on the mechs for now. These are land mechs. They walk around. They shoot huge projectiles. And they are plugged into the Jack Bros' heads, and they utilize their powers. So you're still using the powers of Jack Frost and Jack Skellington, all of them, and a larger array of Jacks, because there's 5 new Jacks, which I'll talk about later.
Okay.
But what happens is basically in Jack Bros for the Virtual Boy, when you finish a level, you go back to the world map before going to the next level. This time, though, you've got to travel to the next level in a vertical scrolling shmup.
Oh, nice.
So we're going from those tight dungeons to a full-on sprawling vertical environment where you're going at light speeds. The Jack Bros' mechs spawn wings, and they're going around shooting all sorts of Shimagami Tensei enemies. Even there's a mirror boss, which is basically just a giant wang, and all sorts. I said there are 5 new Jacks.
Yes.
So we've got there's of course we have Jack, who's one of the Jacks.
Yep.
He's capable of shooting water.
Okay.
Sometimes it's bubbles, sometimes it's water.
Yep.
You can also use a freeze ray because you can turn the water into ice.
Excellent. Is that a special?
That's a special. Yeah,
that makes sense.
We've got Zack Frost. He is still a Jack, but he comes from a different family. Zack, he's more of a joke character. Like sometimes you press the button, and he just goes to sleep. Other times, he just kind of leaves. He doesn't come back for a while. You don't really want to choose Zack Frost. I've got 3 more Jacks to name. You got Jack Dan. He's a cool little one. He has electrical powers. He's a nice one.
I'm trying to. Sorry, I would ask you more questions, but I'm feverishly trying to write down all the Jacks that you're bringing to this game.
You've got Jack Fox. Jack Fox is the fastest. He has 4 legs. He can go really fast, but he doesn't have much of an ability. He can shoot like 1 beam ahead of him.
Excellent.
And then finally, we've got Jack Lost. Jack Frost, he's really good at the vertical scrolling sections. But in the dungeon areas, he just gets lost all the time. Sometimes, in linear design levels, sometimes where you expect the door to be, it's just not there.
So does it change when you're playing as him?
He's procedurally generated.
Brilliant.
Yeah. And yeah, that's the general gist. So we have very traditional, loyal Jack Frost levels with more characters.
Okay.
But in between them are the vertical sections, which are just high-octane action. And the boss from the dungeon... You have phase 1 in the flying section.
Right.
So you find them first. There's some dialogue sequences, some story setup, and then the culmination happens in the dungeon. And that is my pitch for Jack Bros 2.
Very good. That's a very good pitch. Very nice. Thank you.
I'm glad you think so.
No, do you know what? I think this is a very promising pitch. So I have a few questions for you. So how many Jacks is this in total now? This is 8 Jacks to play as?
Yeah, there's 5 new ones.
Wow,
yeah,
okay.
So 8.
Now, can you like hop? Can you switch between them on the fly? So is it you're picking the best Jack for the job, or is it you pick a Jack and you stick with that Jack?
You can change between them from level to level, but you can't switch dynamically. So once you're in a level, you are settled to that Jack.
All right.
But if you die, though, it can be it's like Mario 2. It goes back to the level select screen. It's like, do you want to be this Jack?
I like that. Okay.
Oh, I see.
All right. And and we're talking about, so you've got the when you talk about sort of the classic gameplay, so for the areas, it is, traversing through, is it you're against the clock again?
Yeah, the clock's back. That's a core mechanic.
Yep.
And it also carries forward to the vertical scrolling sections. So there's a lot more enemies going on there. So you got to avoid a lot more bullets, but there's also less exploration going on because it's all on rails.
Interesting.
So you got to be even more precise in avoiding attacks. But you obviously can't explore.
So does this mean from start to finish of the game, there is one continuous countdown?
No. It resets every level. However, you get any time that you have left over from the vertical section goes into the next one. So you get some bank. It's like the weakest link. You bank the time.
Do you guys have the weakest link, Daniel? Do you know what John's talking about?
We do have the weakest link. We haven't had it in a long time, but
yeah, a quaint UK quiz show.
The weakest jacket now.
Okay, and then how about now for me that screams multiplayer, but is that on the cards or no?
That was going to be my question. Is this going to be a co-op situation? Are we going to have multiple possible Jacks playing at the same time, or is this just solely a single-player game?
I'm glad you both asked. This has been multiplayer from the first moment we thought it up. Dynamic co-op, but there's also a competitive angle. You can either play together and work together with a shared time, or you have individual times.
Nice.
You're able to take time from your competitor by shooting them with specific items.
John, I was going to say, if you say you nick time from them by stabbing them, then I'm going to say you've got a problem, because that is 2 pitches in a row where that
it's called the time knife.
All right, and how about let's talk visuals then, because obviously classically just red and black. Is this how's it going to look? Is it going to look like Atlus games now, sort of like very stylish Persona style things, or how's it going to look?
Level 1 is black and white. You're in the Virtual Boy from the beginning. They've been stuck here since 1995. And the first level ends by breaking free into a world of color. It's still sprite-based, but it's like hand-drawn sprites rather than like 16-bit, 8-bit sprites. So we're going full hand-drawn animated with this one.
Oh, nice. Daniel, any questions for John?
Well, I have the multiplayer one, but that was very much answered. If not on the fly, I believe you had that in your head the whole time, definitely.
John meticulously plans his pitches. That's what I've learned.
Yeah.
No, that's nonsense. All right, and how about... I suppose, we didn't talk about this for the last game, but we didn't talk about much when we discussed Jack Bros, because there isn't much of one there. It's just get back before the end of Halloween. But is there a story to the game?
Yeah, of course there is. So, so it starts off, you've been stuck in the Virtual Boy since 1995, and no one's been able to save them. But they break free thanks to so Jack's got a girlfriend on the outside called what female name rhymes with Jack?
Wait, which Jack?
Jack Frost, of course.
Oh, Jack Frost.
Jill Frost.
Yeah, Jill Frost.
Frost, yeah.
She's on the outside. She manages to finally break away into the Virtual Boy and helps him come free. And they figure that if they want to live a life of self-actualization, that they have to date. But that goes wrong when she is whipped up by Mac Frost, who is the villain of this game. Now, Mac he's big. He's a big guy, and he's full on red monochrome. He comes from the Virtual Boy, and he does not like this world of color. He wants everything to turn back into red and black. So he takes Jill Frost, and he takes her back to the Virtual Boy. And so there are dating aspects from future Shin Megami Tensei games. You've got to get back to date her. You want to get back to playing a modern Shin Megami Tensei Persona game.
That's the drive, right? That's not just
That's
your
the drive.
personal feelings. That's the plot
No.
of the
Yeah,
game.
that's the drive. Jack Frost wants that taste of Persona. He wants to know what it's like. So he wants to get back into the Virtual Boy and live out their modern Atlus life.
I can't help but feel like if I dug deeper into this, that is riddled with holes. But I will take your word for it that it is well thought and planned out.
It's watertight.
It's watertight, mate. Well, there's no more questions. Daniel, any more questions for John's pitch?
No, I think you've got it all down pat. No, I think we got it.
Nice. Okay.
Genuinely, I quite like the idea of switching to an intense shmup thing and then having more of the exploration thing. I do think there is something in that kind of duality of play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so too.
All right. Okay, well, Daniel, you are now the president of Nintendo, and we are still the board, and we still demand that you bring Jack Bros back and make it a success. So please, yes, John, please tell us. Daniel,
Bring it
tell
back!
us now. How do you do it, please?
Well, I've been waiting for this moment because I love our small little snowman boy. Of course, him here. He's Jackson Frosty Boy himself.
If you're just listening, Daniel has a Jack Frost plush. That is insane.
He's a good little boy.
He's patting its head.
Look at him.
Yeah, I love Jack Frost. He's like my favorite of the he's Atlus's mascot essentially at this point. He's been in so many different titles, and so I want to give proper tribute to. I can't put him down anywhere close by, so he's sitting here just listening to me, taking notes.
Good boy.
So for Jack Brothers, if we wanted to revitalize this series, I do think we need to keep a lot of the core mechanics here, such as exploring a set area, having the timer available as well, where you can earn more time or lose time if you take damage. But also, I think what we would do is we have Jack Frost here. We also have Pyro Jack or Jack Lantern. Jack-o'-lantern and Jack Skeleton, Jack the Ripper, essentially. So they're all here. There's 3 of them. And in this one, my pitch was that you can, in fact, switch between the 3 of them on the fly. So the story of the original Jack Brothers is that on Halloween, all the Jack Brothers, they cannot get back into the demon world. If they stay in the human world, then they're going to be kind of stuck and locked away forever. But so that the whole point of that game was to go back into the demon world. So this time in this game, they want to escape the demon world to be able to take part of Halloween, so that they can still be remembered that they are in fact the mascot demons of Halloween. Nice. They're being kept inside. They're being kept imprisoned here by none other than Black Frost himself.
Where are you getting all of these?
Black Frost.
Have you made these?
He wants to be the mascot of Halloween. He wants to take over. He wants to be the only one that the kids remember for Halloween. And so he's trying to keep all the other Jack Brothers in the demon world instead. So now they're trying to escape the demon world so that they can continue to be remembered by all the boys and girls who love Halloween. And so Black Frost has recruited a bunch of the demons that you've seen from different, Atlus games, Shin Megami Tensei, Persona, and whatnot. And the worlds are kind of based on the theme to these demons. So like, for example, there's a very much like a fairy world where there's like Pixie, there's Oberon, there's Titania, the fairy king and queen. So that's like the bosses of those. And you have all the other kind of related demons that are there. And these worlds have like I want you to imagine like a Resident Evil kind of game now. That's the kind of game that we're playing here. So it's like a third person. You're playing as a Frost or just as a Jack brother. And in these dungeon areas, there's different puzzles that need to be solved while you're doing these, depending on what elements. So you might need to burn something as Jack-o'-lantern to continue forward. You might have to, cut a wire or something, or cut something as Jack the Ripper because he's the only one with a knife. Or you might need to freeze something or make something very cold with Jack Frost.
Yeah.
And they each also have like a bit of a health meter. If they get damaged, you do lose some time. I think the time would be a little bit more, generous given, it was really strict in that game. But they also have a health meter too. If they take damage, you can swap them out and they'll slowly recover energy as they're in the back seat. But when you swap them out again, you can only heal so much as you're continuing. But yeah, essentially it's that kind of thing. And so you go through the different worlds, different biomes and whatnot. You get different demons that make an appearance, like Beelzebub from the previous Jack Brothers is also there because he's also a very prominent like demon in Shin Megami Tensei still. And so, yeah, I think that's something that you could do with that idea. What was the other thing I was going to mention? Yeah, just essentially keeping a lot of the core of that previous game, but just kind of recontextualizing it to like, there's like a dungeon you explore Resident Evil style. And yeah, I think that's more or less the idea I had for a new Jack Brothers game.
So you're fully embracing 3D. It's a 3D world.
Yeah. Yeah.
And are you kind of, in terms of the puzzles, you say Resident Evil, like, is it, so it's not not like a Zelda style where you've got like the big kind of thing before you. It's more kind of like hidey holes and sort of examining things, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I think it would be something like that, but it's hard to balance it, I guess, because you're still doing the timer. And so I'm wondering if, as I kept going along, I was like, is the timer a good idea here, or should we just keep it to like exploratory and health?
As a Nintendo investor or on the board of directors, I feel like the timer would be counter to exploration.
Yeah.
I think that instead, my other idea was to like have just like a little bonus area you can enter where it is timed, but you kind of just try to go through a set area. There's no puzzles. You just kind of get through the enemies into the set area in a limited amount of time. And it does play like a classic Jack Brothers, where if you get damaged, you lose time instead of health. I think that's probably what the other direction I would have taken that.
So is that like the kind of almost like what John was saying, actually, that kind of mix between kind of like action sections and then exploratory sections, right?
I think so.
It feels like maybe with both these pitches, like, we kind of want to almost flesh out, because I feel like you have both those aspects in the original. You have the kind of exploration, but you have the time pressure and the action. So it feels like you both want to kind of flesh each one out more than the original, right?
Yeah, make it less relentless, I suppose. Yeah. Change up the action every now and then.
All right, fair enough.
My last note of this also, there's also I had a lot of Resident Evil 4 in my mind when I was doing this. There's like a merchant that you see every now and then. This is the Jack of Spades, who represents a deck of cards. This is another Jack now,
love Jack,
and he will sell you items. He will upgrade like your ice attacks, your fire attacks, your knife essentially for Jack the Ripper.
So you got some RPG elements in there.
Yeah, Atlus wants to dip into some of the RPG elements that they've been so well known for, and so they're going to be. You find the Jack of Spades, who I guess he kind of looks like Jimbo from Balatro. He just looks like a little jester.
Nice.
So that's more or less. I forgot about that portion too. Yeah, there's a new Jack brother who's he just wants to support and help you. He doesn't have anything to do with Halloween, so he's just like he wants to help his brothers.
All right, nice. And then how about in terms of, because obviously this is a big jump going into 3D. So what are the visuals? Is there monochromatic stuff like the old games, or is it fully color? Is it sort of modern looks? What does it look like?
I think it does have more of a kind of a painterly look. I was really inspired by the way that Metaphor had done things. Like some of the backgrounds look like they're brush strokes and whatnots. And then like the models themselves, they kind of look like your classic cell shading characters, Persona. And I think there's a lot of room to explore with that painterly look. Like you could do a lot of different interesting things with that. Whether you want to do something beautiful like the fairy world with all with all the fairies and pixies and all of them, or just be leaning way into like a more hellish looking scary world full of fire and whatnot. And so, yeah, I think that's a varied art style should be good for that. But I love that kind of brushstroke look. So that also the Jack Brothers can pop up against it as well.
Ah, yeah, I like it. John, any questions?
Okay. Can we make the Jacks British? Like, can we get Ben Starr to voice one of the Jacks?
Ben Starr can voice a Jack-o'-lantern. I think that seems like the most appropriate one.
Sure.
Ben Starr can he can just talk in like he'll have the smallest little boy with a pumpkin head, but have like the deepest, most powerful voice in the entire game. I think it's very fitting.
It feels like John Cartwright is angling for a job here. I mean,
I'm just fishing for one right now. Please hire me.
and Jack Skelton.
I'll take your audition.
A core component of Shin Megami Tensei is merging them together. Is that going to be a gameplay component? And I would have included this in mine if I had thought of it beforehand.
That's very honest of you, John.
Is merging a mechanic of any sort, or are we just ditching it with this one?
Your goal while you're exploring all these areas, you're finding different pieces of treasure and whatnot, and so the pieces that you obtain, you can give them to the Jack of Spades when you reach the merchant place, and you can fuse them together and upgrade your different weapons. And especially, it's especially potent for Jack the Ripper because he doesn't have ranged projectiles like the other Jack brothers do. He's more for like your physical attacks, and so to balance that, he has the most flexibility in upgrading his knife. It can be a lot stronger as you fuse these materials and make it stronger as the game goes on. And that's that's like a thing where Jack the Ripper can also do like counter attacks as well, like more physical combats.
Yeah.
So for the final boss, can we fuse all the Jacks together, like going supersonic? Like they just all fuse into one Jack.
And
oh my gosh, that'd be amazing. Oh, that's how you get King Frost. The Jack
go.
King.
He's the supersonic boss. Yeah.
Put together, it's King Frost. That'd be amazing. King Frost needs to make an appearance somehow.
Can he just be called Jacked and just be huge?
Oh, they're all jacked up, man. It's just a Jack Frost, but he's like super buff and muscly. He's got abs and everything. That'd be incredible. I guess the final little bit I had that represents like Resident Evil is also to have some areas where there's an enemy that you cannot defeat. This would be like Death from Persona from the Persona series. You just don't bother. You just gotta run away.
Escape. Yeah.
Because you're just a little boy who can't fight back against death. So. And then
Isn't that
obviously
all of us.
The final boss would be Black Frost at the very end because he wants to take over. He wants to be the one that represents Halloween instead of the other Jack brothers. So
incredible.
He is the villain, the true villain.
Any more questions for Daniel?
Do you think this game will make our customers feel fulfilled if they have gone astray?
They've gone astray.
Very business deep question for this podcast. Customer satisfaction.
Does this game satisfy the core audience that likes to play with knives? Let's see. My idea is for this game to be like rated T for teen, and so it's not your M-rated, your typical Shin Megami Tensei or Persona style game. It's one that can appeal to a wider audience, and maybe it's a gateway for people to get into other Persona related or
that's not the question
games.
I asked.
All right, you will be absolutely fulfilled, John.
That's what we wanted
for you.
Very nice.
I was fulfilled making it. So
very good. Well done answering John's nonsense questions as well. Okay.
I do it all the time.
Two very different pictures. I'm going to throw in a quick third for you as well. So, I love Jack Bros. I have played it through with every character, unlocked everything you can do in it. And now you two are younglings compared to my withered old self. But do you remember a game called Mad World on the Wii?
Yeah. All black and white and bloody.
Yeah.
Yeah,
great.
exactly.
I mean, underrated game. Platinum Games. Just like action slug for 3D action game, basically. So I want to take Jack Bros and I want Platinum Games to Mad World it. I don't want it to be RPGs. I think Atlus have got fantastic RPGs. They don't need to do that with this. I want them to do a full 3D remake of Jack Bros. So you've got all the 6 areas. And it's kind of like you've got the radar map in the bottom, which looks like the Virtual Boy. So, you can see the platforms underneath it. So you've got the classic thing in the corner. But it's all going through quite tight, like, 3D landscape where you are sort of peeking around walls and having to tackle enemies head on and find the keys and drop down. And then once you go through those first 6 areas, that you then got like an additional 30 in the Demon World, Daniel, when you go through the gate. So there is a game beyond the game. You see what happens after the Virtual Boy release, basically. And you're battling to become the sort of top demons in that world. I want it to be red and black. It's got to be red and black, no colour. Maybe the occasional special, like, illuminates the world and you see what it all actually looks like, but it's all red and black. Really stylized visuals. It's all still the timer counting down. You've still got to battle through to the end. And then you also have, on top of that, an online mode, which is a procedurally generated floors. So you're just, basically, you set with like 500 seconds and you have to just go and go and go to see how deep you can get. And obviously you have global rankings for that. And possibly Labo VR, where you can play the game in 3D like it was meant to be played.
Finally.
And that's my Jack Bros pitch. A full 3D remake in the style of Mad World.
You sold it with that Labo VR support. Like,
who doesn't?
Up until then, it was very good, but then it's like, okay,
well, it's pushed to the
we're green lighting this now.
And
yeah.
who doesn't have Labo VR, right? Everyone's got one of them knocking about on their shelf.
Yeah.
Mine's definitely not falling apart. Yeah. You definitely saved the question I was going to ask. Is there any sort of like 3-dimensional effect added to this in VR? It's the answer to everything, as always.
Yeah, I just think it would be fun. I mean, it would probably make you feel very sick doing like, I've done the hearts thing. Right, if you're only listening to the podcast, I just put my hands together and my Mac did hearts flying out my hands. Not really the feel we're going for with Jack Bros. So yes, it's fully 3D. Very slightly, it'd probably make you feel sick playing it in 3D, but the option's there.
That's very nice. I appreciate any idea that still tries to incorporate a 3D effect like that, and art styles like that too. I love the Mad World art style. I think more games should try to be extra daring and dynamic with their art styles like that. I
think any game that like fully commits to an art style, right? That's the key. If you just commit to it and make it work, then it's always more memorable than being, sort of top end or kind of middling. And Mad World really did that. It really went, nah, this is our style. And I think Platinum in general are very good for that anyway. But particularly Mad World is very striking game.
Oh yeah,
so
absolutely.
Platinum are developing this though, right?
I think I'm going to give it to Platinum because they do action so well.
Does it worry you that a lot of their top talent has now left the studio? Is that not a concern?
I am using my Nintendo president money to pull them back in. Or,
there you go. They can't say no.
Or they can form Platinum. I can't merge Platinum and Atlus. It doesn't work.
Platypus?
Platypus Studios. They form Platypus. Thank you, Daniel. That's what I had written down. They form Platypus Studios, and they are making Jack Bros. Just new Jack. No, can't call it new Jack Bros. What do you call it? I don't have a title for it. That feels like an oversight.
Bros.
Oh, that reminds me. I forgot to mention. And they do look like the Japanese ones, but when they use their specials, they like hulk out into the American box art ones.
Good. Oh my god! What a callback!
And it's just called Jacked Bros this time. There you go. That was it. That's not really the title. Please don't judge it on that. I'll come up with something good.
Will this make us feel fulfilled?
In every conceivable way, John.
Oh, that's what I wanted to hear. Yes.
There's plenty of knives. You're welcome.
I have an incredibly important question.
Oh yeah.
Does Joker make an appearance in this game?
Oh.
Do you know what? No. It's about the Jack Bros. Maybe DLC. If the game is popular enough, I will drop him in as DLC, and he'll be called Jacker. Oh no!
We can't call him Jacker.
I did not think that through before I opened my mouth.
I think you could definitely have DLC where some of the Jack Bros can dress up as characters from Atlus games.
Atlus love doing that.
You
have all the time.
You have the Naho Bihino in Shin Megami Tensei 5, who's just Naho Bino, but it's a Jack brother. So you can definitely do that with Joker too.
And for a very reasonable $4.99 per costume, which I think is
The original Virtual Boy soundtrack is in there for just $7.99.
just a sweet $7.99. Well,
That's all.
guys, if there's no more questions for me, then that's it. 3 pitches to bring back the Virtual Boy classic game Jack Bros. Do you like Jon's Atlus-developed shmup with mechs, even more jacks, and a huge interconnected world with competitive and cooperative elements and hand-drawn visuals? Or do you like Daniel's jack-switching direct sequel, where you are trying to escape the demon world and fight Black Frost to get back to the human world, with fully 3D dungeons filled with puzzles and RPG elements? Or do you like my Madwell-style brawler, with monochrome red and black visuals, over-the-top boss fights, and an endless dungeon for online play? Or do you have a better pitch yourself? Let us know in the comments below. If you're there, if you could like and subscribe, we'd really appreciate it. If you're listening as a podcast, please do rate and leave a comment. It helps us to grow. You can find us all over on BlueSky. But for now, Jon, thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you for being here. It's not said enough. No one really says it to you, but thank you for being here.
Thank you for that, Jon. That's very kind. Daniel, Jack, thank you for being here.
Thank you, hee-ho, for being our host today. For being our he-host.
Look at that lovely boy. And for all of you for listening, thank you so much. But for now, that's game over. Goodbye.
Till we meet again.
Bye.